Good time of the day, viewers of the channel. Today we will talk about the thrilling solo leveling. Literally from the first frame we are immersed in the thick of events. The protagonist Sung Jin-woo, a lower E Grand Hunter, is on the verge of death. He laments how this could have happened and the giant monster strikes. Then we go back to the past where we're introduced to the world situation. A place of action solar time only in contrast to the reality here in the world open portals through which you can enter the dungeons where you can get artifacts and sell expensive. Those who make them prey and kill monsters are called hunters. Sung Jin-woo, who had no special talents other than more advanced regeneration, was forced to take the job to earn money to treat his sick mother. He says if he didn't have to, he wouldn't be a hunter. We are then transferred to a construction site where we meet an already experienced hunter, Kim, who is quietly drinking coffee and sees an old comrade Buck who has already retired. But since his wife is pregnant with their second child, Bask needed money and he decided to get them in a raid in the dungeon. Further, Buck complains that he is no longer the Ragire and that it can be dangerous at all. How everyone starts to greet Sung. Buck asks Kim, he's so strong. Kim replies, no, his nickname is the world's weakest hunter. Even in the world's lightest dungeons, he gets injured. So his coming means it's gonna be easy. Sung hears their conversation and his morale drops, so he doesn't get coffee as it's over. He is further shouted at by her name, Joo-hee, and she is also involved in the raid as a healer. Joo-hee asks how Sung got hurt again. He replies that it was on the last hunt. Later on, Sung's story became clear. That since the dungeon was easy, the other players decided not to take a medic and as a result no one treated Sung's wound. And he was the only one injured because the others had a higher rank and they didn't have threats. Joo-hee says they should have taken the medic anyway. Sung replies that it is his fault that he is so weak. Next, a man named Mr. Song offers himself to lead the campaign. Kim replies that if he has the highest rank, then so be it. Other members of the group agree as well. After that, Song says it's time to enter the dungeon and all participants enter it. Next we see two employees, one of whom looks worried. The other one asks why. He replies that he has never seen Sung Jin-woo not get shot in the dungeon. Another employee says that since the dungeon of level D all should be alright. We then find ourselves in a dungeon where the early Sung is treating Joo-hee. She says why he keeps working as a hunter is too dangerous for Sung. He apologizes. During this time, the rest of the group destroys the remaining monsters and the raid is nearly over. Joo-hee asks why he keeps taking such risks. He replies that working as a hunter is fun and if it wasn't for work he would have died of boredom. Joo-hee says make sure you don't really die. Master Song then explains that killing monsters can produce magical kernels that are worth more the higher the level of the monster. So the cost of a C-level core can be thousands. But because of the weakness, such monsters were unattainable to Sung. He only had the E-level core, and he knew it wasn't enough. Meanwhile, a new passage was discovered in the dungeon. The song says it's a double dungeon, which is very rare. He goes on to say that if they go there, they will defeat the boss and make more money, but at the same time it can be dangerous. He therefore proposed that a vote should be taken on whether to proceed or not. Tim and Buck say they're in. Joo-hee says no. The other members of the guild also vote and the score is equal, 8-8, and Sung Jin-woo has the deciding vote. He realizes that he doesn't have enough money and his sister is going to college soon, so he says he will. After that, the whole group walked through the dungeon for 40 minutes without encountering anything on their way. Meanwhile, Sung, noticing the tension on Joon-hee's face, apologized to her for making her go to the dungeon. She said he didn't have to worry about her, to see if she's okay. Joon-hee angrily said that she was definitely not okay because she saved Sung from death so many times and he decided to risk his life again. Sung knew very well that if she were a B-rank healer, he would die. Sung said that he was very sorry. Joon-hee said that if he really was sorry, he could make it up to her by inviting her to dinner. Sung was embarrassed. Of course he agreed. At this point, the boss's room was discovered. Kim said he'd never seen a door like this before and that it could be dangerous. To this Song replied that they would not turn back when they had come so far, and that he would still go inside. Other members of the group said that Song was famous for his strength as a C-rank hunter and that they were safe around him. Next, Song opens the door and everyone sees a huge hall in which blue lights begin to light. On the edges of the hall stand huge statues with various weapons. In front of the throne sits the largest statue. The song says that I've never seen anything like it. And you need to search everything because you can't see the boss. All the members of the group expressed their opinion about the hall. Someone admired someone who was worried someone thought they were being watched. One participant looked at the biggest statue and said he hoped it wasn't the boss. Another guy was told it couldn't be. Sung said it was the only statue this size. At this time, Song discovered the magic seal, while a member of the group discovered the obelisk, which had a runic inscription on it. The inscription was translated as CARTENONA temple rules. 1. Bow to the Lord. 2. Praise the Lord. 3. Prove your loyalty. While reading the rules, Joon-hee grabbed Sung Jin-woo's hand, and when she showed the biggest statue, she said her eyes looked at them. Sung said she showed up. Suddenly it was cold inside. The song continued to read the text, the one who disobeys the rules will not come back alive. And at that moment the door they entered closed. Panic started. One of the band members said that coming here was a mistake and that he was no longer interested in the treasure and that he just wanted to leave. Then he headed for the door. The song shouted at him not to touch the handle, but as soon as the guy in the tracksuit did it, A standing near statue killed him. They were all shocked that the statues were moving. At that moment, Sung Jin-woo remembered the words of Jun-hee and looked at the large statue and saw. Her eyes were looking at them. People were worried. Sung remembered that the guy who had just killed the statue so easily was D rank. He has never heard of such monsters in the D rank dungeons. The song said that if all the statues are able to move and looked at the biggest. Then we get a brief Sung Jin-woo story, in which he reveals that he was stabbed and risked his life from the first dungeon. And while the other hunters were buying themselves armor and weapons he could not afford, since all the money was spent on the mother's treatment. Thus, due to constant injuries, he acquired his nickname the weakest hunter in the world. But his reflexes were getting better because of his constant injuries, and feeling threatened, Sung shouted at everyone to lie down. And at that moment, the giant statue released a ray from its eyes and everyone who had not had time to lie down died. The song screamed that no one would get up. Ju-hee was panicking and just screaming on the floor. Song said she had trouble with fear, so despite her rank, she did not visit high-ranking dungeons. At this time, Sung saw that Master Song did not have an arm, but Master Song replied that he would be alright. Song further asked Sung if he knew the rank of the dungeon, to which he replied no. Song kept talking and said that he had never been in a dungeon above B rank and there was nothing like that. So it's probably not even 8 is S rank, and that the boss here is the biggest statue. And he also knew that killing everyone in this dungeon would take too long. Next is a short story about the fact that 10 years ago the gate opened in the world, and some people happened what is called awakening. As a result, they had incredible power. So the protagonist Sung Jin-woo got his power, and though he was stronger than ordinary people, the difference between him and high-ranking hunters was enormous. Sung Jin-woo asks Master Song about his bleeding, to which Song replies that nothing can be done. Since he only brought 3 healers to the group, he thought it would be easy. As a result, one healer was completely destroyed by an attack of a giant statue. The second went mad with fear, just like the rank B healer. Therefore, healing is now impossible, and all they can do is just sit still. At this time, Sung was analyzing the situation. He realized that when they got up they were attacked by a giant statue, and when they get close to the door, the statue next to the door starts to act, and this statue will not just let go. At that moment, a member of the group stood up and said that he was not going to die here. He had just joined a large guild and that he was starting to get better. He said that if he was sure of something, it was his speed. And as Master Song shouted at him to stop, he rushed to the door. But as he approached the door, the giant statue fired a ray from his eyes. As a result, only pieces of the body remained. Upon seeing this, Sung Jin-woo said that the statues could kill them at any moment. Master Song says the statues can kill them like bugs. Sung replies, if they can kill them all at any moment, why didn't they? Sung understood the giant statue was not a normal monster that would attack everyone as soon as he saw it. So the statue attacks those who get up, and the other those who approach the door. Their attacks were logical. At that moment, Sung Jin-woo recalls the rules of the obelisk. Sung asks Mr. Song Jin-yeol what was the first rule. Sleep replies bow to the Lord. Sung Jin-woo says there are rules in this dungeon and starts to get up. At first, Song Jin-yeol thinks that Sung has gone mad. But when he looks at him, he realizes that it is the look in his eye of the man who does not want to die. Sung Jin-woo realizes that the Lord does not attack those who do not rise above a certain height. That's how he understands the first rule. Sung Jin-woo is shouting to everyone to get on their knees. Other people didn't think he was crazy. Master Song asked if Sung Jin-woo understood something. Sung replied that he did, and to bow to a lord means that they literally have to bow to him. Did Song ask if it was intuition? Sung replied that so far. To this, Song Jin-yeol replied that they still had no choice but to bow. Everyone else has already followed suit. At that moment, the statue's eyes were extinguished. His face was distorted in a terrible smile. The new face of the Lord frightened everyone. While everyone was wondering how much more they had to bow to, Buck raised his head and said that the statue would not attack again. Kim answers, it looks like the statue was about to do something different, and he's not sure it's going to be okay just because of the bow. At that moment, Buck finally stood up and said that the statue was no longer attacking. Everyone, too, began to get up and rejoice that they had hope. Suddenly the Lord stood up. He wondered if there was a plan to do in such a situation. Sung Jin-woo, who was terrified at the time, he replied that he had absolutely no idea. The statue began to move forward. Sung recalled other rules and said that the second rule was to praise the Lord. To this, one member of the group said that he used to be in the church choir and if you need to sing and praise he will do it. And he started singing a song praising God. As the statue drew closer, everyone thought the song was working because the statue was slowing down. At that moment, looking at the face of the statue, Sung understood. The singer praises the wrong God. And at that moment, the statue crushed the one who sang. There was a wave of horror, and they ran away from the statue. At the last moment, Jun-hee, who could not get up for fear, was saved by Sung Jin-woo. Master Song cried that people should split up because it's safer. Sung Jin-woo realizes he can't leave Jun-hee. At this time, Buck remembers that he can't leave his family and we see a small flashback of his life. Kim shouts to him to turn around, but the tank is running out of time, and the statue that was in the back cuts him in half. Sung struggled to find a way to praise such a lord, if it is the devil himself. At this point, the other statues also begin to function and kill anyone who approaches them. Sung draws attention to a statue with a musical instrument. He notices that when statues are armed with conventional weapons attack those around them, that statue with a musical instrument is not attacked, but played instruments. And Sung screams that everyone runs to these statues. The next shot is Kim, who cries and calls the statue a bastard, while Sung and Junhee ran up to a statue with a drum that for some reason Song wasn't playing. Sung realized it was because about 2 people were involved. He told Junhee to stay, and he ran to another statue with musical instruments. But it turned out that it was not a musical instrument but a shield, and the statue began to attack Sung Jinwoo. Sung was wounded and a giant statue was coming towards him, and he thought he was going to die. How suddenly one of the statues in the shape of an angel sang, and the statue stopped. Junhee ran up to Sung and asked if he was okay. He replied that he was, but Junhee was horrified to look at him. At that moment, Sung looked at his leg and realized that it was gone. Junhee started treating him. Sung said that she wouldn't overexert herself and that he was better. She said that she would soon cure him, and at that moment, she had a nosebleed. The remaining members of the group realized that there were 6 of the 17 people left alive, and 2 were near to death. Kim says it's all because of Song's bad leadership, and Song agrees. At that moment, the statue moves its hand and a pedestal appears from the floor. Kim asks what is it. Sung answers the altar. In the last commandment, sleep, prove your faith. At this point, Kim begins to summon the sword, and says that even though he is stupid, he understands that it means that they must make a sacrifice. Then he points the sword at Song and speaks. Song Kyle brought them here, that because of him all were killed, and he must take responsibility for it. Sung tried to object, but Master Song said that he understood everything and was ready to go. When he came to the altar next to him, a fireball caught fire. Master Song asked Sung what to do. Sung replied that, apparently, the Lord doesn't need a sacrifice and asked for help to get to the altar. And he said they had to get to the top of the altar and that they'd probably be okay. He and the hunters walked down the aisle and the fireballs lit up around them. When asked whether other hunters would rescue them, Song replied that it was not a week after the gate opened, and that the statues would kill them before reinforcements arrived. Song asked that they would not come because it was a dungeon of D rank, to which Song replied that it was typical of guilds. Then they tell us, the gate opens completely after 7 days, and the monsters from the dungeons enter our world. So the mission's main goal is to kill the boss and close the portal, and that means the Lord will be out in a week. Sung said that Junhee and Kim should also come to the altar and only then will the trial begin. As they approached, everything was shining blue, and the door from the hall opened. Everyone started thinking, is that all? We can leave so easily. It can't be that simple. At that moment, the statues began to approach. They sewed blue patterns. Sung stares at the movement as the statues approach. He told Junhee not to close his eyes, and what it's like is a kid's game where you're approached until you look. He told everyone to look at the statues. At that moment, one girl who was standing next to Sung panicked. She ran out of the circle, and one fireball went out. The girl ran out of the gate but nothing happened to her. But the doors themselves closed a little, and if they cover up when the light goes out, it means when everyone goes out, the doors will close too. At this point, another hunter who supported Sung said that he could no longer stand up through him and also ran to the exit. He ran out and the door closed again. Sung said we couldn't let anyone else leave. One more and we won't be able to look at the statues without them coming. Otherwise, they'll all die. The dream asked what was going on. Sung replied that they had to wait for the blue lights to go out. They were like a timer, and they could leave when they all disappeared. Kim said if the blue lights go out and the doors close, and if Sung is sure of his theory. Kim goes on to thank Sung and says that he has always underestimated him, but that's why they survived. Sung also thanked him, but at that moment, Kim cried and said, he has a family and doesn't want to die, and he ran out the door. Sung said that his escape would cost them their lives. The gate is almost closed. The dream said, he understands everything and Sung and Junhee must leave, and the gate will not close until any fire is lit. They still have so much to see, and he's an old man. Song asks Junhee to help take Sung. However, Junhee falls, and she says her legs aren't moving. The song says it's probably because she's using too much mana. At this point, Sung is talking. I want Song to help Junhee leave. Next, they argue who stays, but Sung says there's no time left. Junhee says he'll stay with him, but Sung replies that he has promised to go to dinner with her and offers her the crystal, and says that he will also collect the debt. Junhee screams that he won't go anywhere, and at that moment, Song knocks her out with a blow, and throws her on his shoulder. He says there's really no time left. Sung asks me to take care of Junhee. Song says he'll do what he can and he's heading out. Sung realizes that he is alone and is happy that only he will die. Next, he says if he knew it was going to be like this, he would have taken insurance. After that, he grabs the sword that Kim threw, and says that at least one monster will take with him. At this point, we go back to the beginning of the story, and we see the monster strike and stab Sung through. He's lying on the altar bleeding to death, saying in his mind he doesn't want to die. The last moments of his life are before him. Sung's final thought, if I had another chance. At this moment, the statue strikes. But literally at the last second, the last blue light dies and the sword stops. The next icon appears in front of Sung as in the game on which it is written. You have fulfilled all the necessary requirements of the hidden task. Courage of the weak. Sung doesn't understand what it is. Then a new window appears. You have been given the right to become a player. Do you accept? Sung doesn't understand what's going on. The next inscription says he doesn't have much time because his heart stops after 0.2 seconds. Sung asks if he agrees he doesn't have to die. Then he says it's his chance and he takes it. The welcome player icon appears. Sung begins to be holy.